some people. People would come to talks and they would hear something and they would be alienated by that talk. And that's why it's not a spin when you change that discourse. It's not for spin. It should be based on principle. Because Muslims are principled people. And the Prophet ﷺ, for instance, I have in the early period, I've said things about other religions that I regret now. Not because of spin, but because I don't believe that they were Islamically sanctioned statements. I don't believe that. I really, truly do not believe that. I think they were incorrect. And I can't stand on that. You have to recognize what's true and what's not true in your discourse. And if we don't do that, one, we're denigrating our own religion because we're not being true representatives of our religion. It's absolutely important to do that. On the other hand, again, we are under siege as a community. And so we have to respond to the circumstances that we find ourselves in this country. We now must educate people in this country. We have to. We have to tell them who we are. We have to tell them who we are, not just for our sake, but for their sake. One of the things about these books, I was with a friend of mine, Dr. Hatem Bazayan, and we were with a man named Chris Hedges. I don't know if people know him, but Chris Hedges wrote War is a Force That Gives Us Meaning, and he wrote Losing Moses on the Freeway, the 10 Commandments in America. He's somebody who studied theology at Harvard University, and he became a war correspondent for the New York Times. He worked 20 years corresponding in combat conditions, writing newspaper articles for the New York Times. During that time, he was in 15 wars. 15 wars. He's seen wars all over. He was in 7 years in the Arab world. He knows Palestine very inside out. And he studied Arabic. He's a very interesting man. But he was there with us, and I told Hatem Bazayan, I said, congratulations. He said, about what? I said, I was reading the book, the 100 Most Dangerous Professors in America, and I saw you got you were in there. I think he's number 65 or something. So I was telling him, congratulations. And when I said that, I was being a little facetious, but when I said that, Chris Hedges said, those books are very dangerous. And he was actually really upset about it. These books like these, you can laugh them off, but they're very dangerous because these books are on the front in Barnes & Noble, in Borders. People come and they buy that. They trust the information. They think they're getting sound information. And these people are liars. They're fabricators of truth. They distort reality. And this is wrong to do that, because what Chris Hedges said is that in every single war he covered, he said there was always a discourse of hatred that began before the war, that set the stage for that war. And he said the same thing is happening in this country. The same thing is happening in this country. And his book now is on the religious right of this country, because he's deeply concerned about where this country is headed. And we have to take these things very serious, because, and I've said this before, and Dr. Almar has really reinforced this concept, we are a historical community. We are part of a historical process. We are here for a purpose. We are in the United States of America in large numbers, and we should be utilizing that fact. We have a job to do, and that job is about reconciling, because we don't want a planet that disintegrates into more war, into more hatred, into more violence, into more conflict, into more human suffering. We don't want that. I don't want that for my children. I have 5 boys. I don't want that for my children. I don't want them to ever have to witness carpet bombing. I don't ever want them to be at the end of some type of weapon of mass destruction, or see children blown up. I don't want them to see that. And anybody that wants war is a warmongerer. And our Prophet ﷺ was a prophet of peace. He came to bring peace. He did not come, he came in the midst of immense cycles of violence in the Arabian Peninsula. And he ended those cycles of violence. He ended those cycles of violence. He did not generate them. He ended them. And that was part of his
historical role, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was a prophet of peace as much as Jesus was a prophet of peace. As much as any prophet that's coming, because they call to peace. They call to salam. And that's what the Prophet said after every prayer. Give me peace. Let me live in peace. Let me die in peace. Oh, giver of peace. This is the Prophet's prayer. The Quran says, كُلَّمَا أَوْقَدَ نَارًا لِلْحَرْبِ أَطْفَأَهَا اللَّهُ. Every time they attempted to inflame the war, put fire on the fuel of war, God put those flames out. Allah is muqfi al-harb. That is an attribute that Allah describes Himself with in the Quran, that He puts out war. So we can imagine how much greater would be the human suffering if Allah didn't stop so much of this harm. So we as a community have a historical role. We don't want to see this country go to war with Iran. We don't want to see this country go to war in Pakistan or any of these places. It's not good for this country, and it's certainly not good for the people on the other end. And this country cannot win a war with Islam. I swear to God, this country cannot win a war against Islam. I swear to God. It cannot win a war with Islam. Many, many people have tried in the past. It cannot win a war with Islam. It's a madness that needs to be stopped. It needs to be stopped, and we're the people that need to explain this to the American people. Not only is Islam not a threat, but it has historically been able to live with many, many peoples. The first global community in human history is the Islamic civilization. The first globalized economy is the Islamic civilization. Muslims were trading with the Chinese. The Chinese were not Christians. They weren't even people of the book at that time. They were largely Buddhists and Taoists. And the Muslims were trading with them. They had good relations. The silk trade is one of the great achievements of human civilization. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, let your trade, your commerce be of mutual agreement. Tijara an taradin minkum. Let this trade, la ta'kuru amwarakum bainakum bil batil. Don't eat your wealth, consume it out of vanity, unfair. Don't steal people's natural resources.
Buy them from them, and buy them at a just price, and let them be pleased with the deal. That's what Allah says. And He says, let it be of mutual agreement, commerce. But if you go and you plunder people, there's a book here called Militant Islam Has Come to America. The only reason these militants have come to America is because militant America has gone to the Muslim world. If militant America didn't go to the Muslim world, you would not get militant Islam coming to America. And we don't want militant Islam. I don't want to see militant Islam. I want to see the Islam of peace. But there has to be mutual conciliation. There has to be respect. The Palestinian people have to be respected. The Kashmiris have to be respected. This is a truth. And this is not, I'm not speaking even as a Muslim right now. I'm speaking as a human being. There are people that can understand this that don't have to be Muslim. When you use Apache helicopters, when you use F-16s against an armless people that have no means to defend themselves, that's simply wrong. That's wrong in any moral tradition on this planet. It is wrong. It is not right. And it needs to be condemned. When you create an apartheid system that was denounced in South Africa as evil, when you create the same system in another place, it has to be denounced as evil. You can't have something right in one place and it's not right in another place. It's right, it has to be right all over, and it has to be wrong all over. And that's all we're asking for, is an even playing field. That's all we're asking for. That's what we want. That's what we want in America, and that's what we want in other places in the world. We want fairness. We want justice. There's people asking why the Muslims are angry. If you're not angry about the current social conditions, you're not alive. You're not alive. You don't have a human heart. If you're not angry about 50 million people in Africa that are suffering from AIDS, and we're spending 0.001% of what we're spending on weapons of mass destruction. We're spending billions of dollars